students, today we will be discussing with the topic community development in India since independence. First, let us see the evolution of community development in India. The concept of community development in India was initiated well before independence. Even during the struggle for independence under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, considerable attention was given to rural upliftment and reconstruction. The Government of India Act 1935 under the British rule, while conferring autonomy on the provinces, included rural development as an important program to be initiated for the welfare of the people. After the independence of India in 1947, community development assumed high priority. In 1948, a pilot community development project was launched through the Etawah project. Later in 1952, the Government of India launched 55 community development projects, each covering about 300 villages or a population of 30,000. This program was multidimensional, but the major emphasis was placed on agricultural production, as the areas selected for launching the project were located in irrigated areas or where the rainfall was assured. In 1953, the National Extension Service project was launched with similar objectives to cover larger areas, including the dry regions. This project of 3-year duration demarcated the blocks of 150 to 300 villages as manageable units for initiating community development programs. The objectives and activities of the project were modified from time to time and continued as a permanent multifunction extension agency in each block. These community developmental blocks were treated as normal administrative units for planning and development with regular budgetary allocations. By the end of the first 5-year plan, 1114 blocks covered 1,63,000 villages, and they were in operation, and by 60s the community development program covered the entire country. The plan defined the central objective of planning as creation of conditions in which living standards are reasonably high and the citizens have full and equal opportunity for growth and justice. While aiming at the economic development through agriculture and cottage industries, efforts were made to improve literacy, health, sanitation, housing, transport and communication. Initially, community development program was launched in 55 community development blocks, otherwise they are also called CDBs, with an operational area of 400 to 500 square miles, comprising of 300 villages and 2 lakh population in each block. The project area was divided into 3 development blocks with 100 each villages and 60 to 70,000 population, groups with 5 to 10 villages. The project was headed by the project officers and subject matter extension officers in the disciplines of agriculture, animal husbandry, cooperation, industries, rural engineering, social education, etc. and 60 multipurpose village level workers, that is VLWs, one for each village. National Extension Service was viewed as the permanent setup for extension in the country and was intended to cover the entire program with an organization for agriculture and also rural development within a period of 10 years. And there is also a process of conversion. In 1954, some National Extension Service blocks which produced good results and where participation of people was in abundance were selected and converted to community development blocks. Funds as well as staff were increased in these blocks. BDO as the head and agricultural, EO animal husbandry, EO cooperatives, EO industries, EO rural engineering, sanitary inspectors, social education organizers, male and female, and also 10 VLWs were the staff of the project. Now, let us see the structure and functions of the community development in India. At the state level, the entire ideology of community development is translated into action. As has already been pointed out, that every state makes its own process of operation, taking into account its own resources and circumstances. Generally, administration at the state is divided into 5 levels, such as state level, district level, subdivisional level, block level, and finally village level. In each of the levels, both government and non-governmental officials are involved, and different voluntary organizations and institutions are also tied up with the system at different levels. Now, let us see at the state level. Every state has a state government committee. Of course, such committee has different name in different states. This body consists of all the ministers concerned with the development of affairs. The chief minister functions as a president. A senior official of the rank of commissioner acts as the secretary of the committee. Generally, he is known as development commissioner. The development commissioners are known as the commissioner for rural development and agricultural production sometimes. According to the necessity, a deputy commissioner is also appointed. The commissioner is responsible for implementing the decisions and plans of the committee. He maintains the coordination and harmony between the central and state government. He receives the guidance and broad objectives from the central authority, utilize them in planning for community development at state level. He also reports the progress to the central government from time to time. He is expected to give suggestions to form modification of policies so as to make it more effective. He keeps close contact with the collectors of the district's development officers for proper execution of the program. At the district level, there exists a district development or district coordination committee under the chairmanship of collector. At the beginning of the community development activities, an ad hoc body known as district advisory body was separating. But after introduction of Panchayati Raj, these ad hoc bodies have been removed. The new bodies are known as Jilla Parishads, and they have come to function in its place. The composition of Jilla Parishad is also not uniform in all states. However, generally it consists of people's representatives, special representatives under the provision of reservations such as MPs and MLAs. All the development officials at the district level are included within it. In some states, the collector acts as the chairman, and in some other states, the chairman is elected. However, in reality, the execution of the program largely depends on the collector, who is assisted by many subdivisional officers and block development officers. In the subdivisional level, subdivisional officer is in charge of the overall development of the area. Under his guidance and chairmanship, a subdivisional committee is formed, taking all the BDOs and also the municipalities, the chairmen, executive officers, Gram Panchayat officers, managers of different financial institutions and other institutions who are linked up with developmental activities. In every month, the committee meets to review the progress and sort out the problems. The SDO makes extension tours to different blocks under his jurisdiction, inspects the work and gives necessary guidance. In the block level, the institutional level of community development program has brought to a new unit of planning and administration. The units are known as community development blocks. An officer that are in charge of the equivalence of this community development blocks serves as the BDO, and he is the responsible person for carrying the fruits of planning and development to the villages. He is assisted by a number of extension officers such as industries, promotion officer and AEO that is for in charge of animal husbandry and veterinary, and CEO, JEO, SEO, FEO, so on and so forth. At the village level, there is a committee known as Gram Panchayat, which consists of panchas elected from different villages, through which different plans and programs are channelized. The Sarpanch is the president of the committee. The government official working at this level is known as village level worker. He is multi-purpose worker in charge of nearly about 7 to 10 villages. He works in the close contact of Gram Panchayat within the area of his operation. He is the real worker and the real agent via whom the message of development is carried to the illiterate and ignorant villages. Now, let us see the support structures and their functions. There are support structures that help aiding the community development program in India, such as Central Social Welfare Board. The Central Social Welfare Board is a key organization in the field of social welfare in India. Created in 1953, it comprises of full-time chairperson and members representing state and union territories. Its general body consists of 51 members headed by the chairperson appointed by the government in consultation with the Ministry of Social Welfare from amongst the prominent women social workers. The board assists in the improvement and development of social welfare activities. The statutory functions of the board are: first one is to survey the need and requirements of social welfare organizations. Second one is to promote the setting up of social welfare institutions in remote areas. Third, to promote programs of training and organize pilot projects in social work. Fourth, to subsidize hostels for working women and the blind. Fifth, to give grants and aid to voluntary institutions and NGOs providing welfare service to vulnerable sections of the society. Sixth, to coordinate assistance extended to welfare agencies by union and state governments. Next one is a Council for Advancement of Rural Technology, otherwise it is called CAPAT. Recognizing the need for an organization that would coordinate and catalyze the development work of voluntary agencies in the country, particularly to ensure smooth flow of benefits to the underprivileged and socio-economically weaker sections of the society, Government of India in September 1986 set up the CAPAT, a registered society under the support of Department of Rural Development, by merging two autonomous bodies, namely People Action for Development of India, that is PADI, and Council for Advancement of Rural Technology, CAPAT. Now, let us see the main objectives of CAPAT. First one is to encourage, promote and assist voluntary action for the implementation of projects intending enhancement of rural prosperity. Next one is to strengthen and promote voluntary efforts in rural development with focus on injecting new technological inputs, to act as a catalyst for development of technology appropriate for rural areas, to promote, plan, undertake, develop, maintain and support projects, schemes aimed at all-round development, creation of employment opportunities, promotion of self-reliance, generation of awareness, organization and improvement in the quality of life of the people in rural areas through voluntary action. Another agency that is working for community development is Rashtriya Mahila Kosh. Rashtriya Mahila Kosh was established in 1993 as a national level organization as an autonomous body under the aegis of the Ministry of Women and Child Development for socio-economic empowerment of women. The operating model currently followed by Rashtriya Mahila Kosh is that of a facilitating agency wherein it provides loans to NGOs or MFIs termed as intermediary organizations, which on lend to self-help groups of women. In addition, RMK also has appointed nodal agencies and franchisees for furthering of its objectives of reaching out to the women beneficiaries with easy access of microcredit for income generating activities. Vision of this organization is to be a financial service and capacity enhancement institution for social and economic empowerment of poor and marginalized women. Another organization that is working for the sake of community development is Khadi and Village Industries Commission, KVIC. The Khadi and Village Industries Commission, KVIC, is a statutory body formed by the Government of India under the Act of Parliament, Khadi and Village Industries Commission Act of 1956. It is an apex organization under the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. With regard to Khadi and village industries within India, which seeks to plan, promote, facilitate, organize and assist in the establishment and development of Khadi. The process of implementation of schemes and programs starts at the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, which is the administrative head of the programs. The ministry receives funds from the central government of India and routes these to the Khadi and Village Industries Commission for the implementation of the programs and schemes related to Khadi and village industries. The Khadi and Village Industries Commission then uses these funds to implement its programs either directly through its 29 state offices by directly funding Khadi and village industry institutions and cooperatives, or indirectly through 33 Khadi and village industry boards. There are also panchayats, which are the executive bodies of Gram Sabha, constitute and also being elected by the Gram Sabhas, consisting of entire adult population of the village. The number of members ranging from 30 to 51. Seats are reserved for minority community and scheduled castes and also are allotted to each constituency in proportion to its population. The relationship between Gram Sabha and Gram Panchayat is the same as between the legislature and the government. Each Gram Panchayat is headed by a chairperson. He is also called as Sarpanch or Pradhan, and also a ward in charge who are ward panchas, and also in some states there is a position of a vice chairman also, and he is also Upapradhan or Upasarpanch. So far as the staff to the panchayats is concerned, there is provision of a secretary in each panchayat or group of panchayats. He also acts as a secretary to the Gram Sabha, responsible for preparing resolutions of the Gram Sabha and placing the same before the Gram Panchayat meeting for follow-up action. The main role and its functions are derived from Article 243G of the Constitution, which stipulates the primary role of panchayats, and it is in the area of development and planning, whereas implementation of the programs of the economic development and social justice are to be focal point of their activities. Now, let us see a little bit in detail about various types of approaches. The first one is multipurpose or integrated approach. Rural areas were left underdeveloped and largely subserviced. The new approach to local government has to be developmental and aims to overcome the poor planning of the past. Integrated development planning is an approach to planning that involves the entire municipality and its citizens in finding the best solutions to achieve good long-term development. An integrated development plan is a super plan for an area that gives an overall framework for development. It aims to coordinate the work of local and other spheres of government in a coherent plan to improve the quality of life for all the people living in the area. It should take into account the existing conditions and problems and resources available for development. The plan should look at economic and social development for the area as a whole. It must set a framework for how land should be used, what infrastructure and services are needed, and how the environment should be protected. Another approach is target oriented approach. Broadly speaking, depending on the project objectives and strategies, two approaches can be distinguished. The first type is the blueprint or target oriented approach, in which projects are defined in terms of mechanisms for the delivery of predefined packages of goods and services to specific target groups. Participation in this context is understood in terms of willingness of people to undertake the required activities. This may also be termed as people centered approach. Hence, it was measured necessary to undertake such programs and projects which deliberately and in a determined manner aimed at reduction in poverty and lead to distributive justice. The main principle came to be economic growth with social justice. With this objective in view, a number of target group oriented programs were implemented. Some of them, such as Rural Manpower Program, initiated towards the end of 1960-61 as a crash scheme for rural employment, was started for providing employment to 1,000 people every year, followed by Food for Work program. It was initiated in April 1977 with the following objectives: improving the nutritional stage and strengthening of rural infrastructure, creation and use of surplus food granules for human resource development. Another one is Swarna Jayanti Rozgar Yojana (SGSY). This scheme was launched after a review and restructuring of the erstwhile Integrated Rural Development Program (IRDP) and allied schemes like training of rural youth for self-employment (TRISEM), development of women and children in rural areas (DWACRA), Million Wells Scheme (MWS), supply of improved toolkits to rural artisans (CITRA), and Ganga Kalyan Yojana. SGSY was launched on April 1, 1999 and is the only self-employment program currently being implemented. The objective of SGSY is to bring assisted Sarojgaris above the poverty line by providing the income generating assets through bank credit and government subsidy. Another approach which we also can take into consideration is area oriented approach. The first approach to development, especially rural development, was regional with emphasis on economic activities to be recognized in dissimilar sub-regions of the district. This approach is popularly recognized as growth center approach. The philosophy behind this approach is that the process of development in rural areas can be fostered through developing natural possessions, building up infrastructural facilities and social services, and also foster the growth of towns and cities in a manner that would help the district to develop in a directed method. The assumption is that each village could not be provided with those facilities simultaneously because of financial limitations and for causes of economic efficiency. This approach is also recognized as induced economic growth approach, and the area development approach focuses on only 2 points: development of optimum infrastructural facilities, and second one is spatial and functional integration for the development of an area. The purpose of these approaches were alleviation of rural poverty. In the last 4 decades, several area-based development programs were prepared and implemented, such as rigorous agricultural district program, drought prone area program, command area program, and desert development program. Since agriculture plays a very significant role in the economy and in social life of the people, the area development strategy was measured essential. The drought prone area development program was, for instance, envisaged in the 7th 5-year plan to augment productivity from the dry land and also arid areas. The feature of such an area is maximum concentration of the poor and unemployed. Hence, their development called for the use of appropriate technology of development. The drought prone area development program incorporated 6 major sectoral areas including fisheries, irrigation, forestry, horticulture, so on and so forth. Likewise, desert development program was another area based program aiming at afforestation, maximum exploitation and conservation of water possessions, creation of water harvesting structures, rural electrification, development of agriculture, horticulture and animal husbandry. Another significant program under the MNP is nutrition program, which comprises of special nutrition program and midday meals program. In 1972 to 73, the Government of India introduced another special program for accelerated rural water supply, providing adequate and safe drinking water to the rural population, prevention of water pollution, educating the public in conservation of quantity and excellence of water, etc. There is also Antyodaya program, where the term Antyodaya means upliftment of the last man in the row. The program was meant for the poorest among the poor in the rural areas of the state. It was a centrally sponsored scheme started in 1977. Under this scheme, 1 crore of the poorest among the BPL families covered under the targeted public distribution system were identified. Poor families were identified by the respective state rural development facility through a below poverty line survey. Following the recognition of Antyodaya families, unique quota cards to be recognized and Antyodaya ration card must be given to the Antyodaya families by the chosen power. These ration cards must be having the required details regarding the Antyodaya family, level of ration, etc. Perhaps the most compelling criticism of community development theory and its relevance to contemporary and future social work practice is the lack of evidence of its effectiveness. In times of governmental accountability, limited funding resources, a continued emphasis on evidence based practice, some in the field would argue that services operating from a pure community development framework will not be likely to secure funding. While there may be truth in this concern, community development focused social service organizations do exist and will remain committed to the theory and the framework because of its value to the individuals and communities they serve. Let us just see the critical reflection on these efforts. 1. More responsibility on part of the officials is being criticized, and also no people's participation seen anywhere. There is also failure of the self-help groups in some areas. Training only in agriculture is being usually witnessed. More of the documentation work also is being concentrated upon. Social education aspect is being ignored and no concreteness in the cooperation, inadequate staff and training input also observed. There is also weak orientation and also lack of proper administration also is some of the problems in community development projects. A general apathy on the part of the sizable number of ruralites also stands in the way of this community development program. In the absence of the proper and active cooperation of the public, the government has failed to take the shape of a genuine public movement. On the whole, one can say that the community development programs have started a new fire in the countryside. One can only hope that this fire will be kept burning and that neither lack of people's enthusiasm nor lack of finance will prevent us from reaching that destination in the shortest possible time to make our nation a developed country. Any questions?
Hello ma'am, I am Pavani. I have a doubt. Which is the successful approach in community development?
Of course, it is Swarna Jayanti Rozgar Yojana, where it is being target oriented. So, we can just address the target of people who are not being reached to the programs or developmental activities by the government, they are being encouraged to grab the opportunities, and based upon their talents they can be encouraged and take some assistance for their developmental activities. So, always the target oriented approach will be useful in looking into the development of those people who are coming forward with their talents and also simultaneously different resources surrounding them. Any more questions? With this, I conclude the Community Development Program in India topic. Thank you.